If you enjoy this content, please take a moment to rate and review it. Your feedback will greatly impact our ability to reach more people. Thank you.
What's up, man? How's it going?
Going well. Busy around here. Finally got a little chilly in Nashville. Kind of like that.
Yeah, I've heard. I think I need to get ready. I'm coming back on Sunday, so I don't think I'm ready for it. I don't think I'm ready for the cold weather yet. Yeah. It's too nice in Mexico City. Busy week. Lots of stuff has gone down. Let's start right away, dig right in. Amazon took the internet down, and I just want to say, like, I had a couple of people reach out to me about this. You know, Vic, before you and I started working together full time, back when I was CTO at Moontoast, we had migrated to the cloud. This was early in the AWS history. Like, I think it was probably 2011 or something like that, and we were part of the first region-wide outage, and it took 48 hours when it came back up. And
as CTO, you're there almost the whole 48 hours. You're like trying to figure out something. Yeah.
And here's the thing. It was the first time it had happened. And so, most people didn't believe you, the individual company,
right,
when you were like, no, like everybody's down. But I remember Twitter went down, and that was finally what got everybody to realize it was something much, much bigger happening.
Yeah.
At this point, these things happen pretty regularly, right? These like internet-wide outages between Amazon and CloudSearch, I think it is. There's
CrowdStrike, other thing.
Maybe it's CrowdStrike. Yeah. The internet is really just running on a few different big providers.
Yeah.
It's a lot of concentration.
There's only three cloud providers, really, in general.
Yes. And look, you can set it up where you have redundancy across regions. The size of this outage was pretty significant. So this feels like whatever happened, they hit a pretty nasty endpoint. I think it was DynamoDB endpoint that got compromised. Yeah, it's just kind of the reality of it. Apparently, as soon as everything came back up, the Amazon stock kind of shot back up. Which I think is the appropriate response. If you're an analyst and you've been tracking Amazon, then this is not the first time you've seen AWS go down, and so as long as they bring it back up, it's fine. It's not like people are going to like leave AWS because of these outages at this point. But
maybe talk about the SLAs for a minute. Like, do they have SLAs where they, if it was down for say a week, they would start having to pay money out, but there's a certain amount that you can do and still be within that, probably.
Yeah, well, I think this probably broke SLA, but I think at the end of the day, this is such a high margin business that whatever the recoup the customers are going to have to avoid any churn is pretty immaterial, quite frankly, for them. So I just don't think it's that big a deal. Anything you have to say? I know I'm kind of the tech guy, the two of us, but I mean,
I just think it's we're getting more and more reliant on technology, and things are gonna happen once in a while. It's gonna go down.
Yeah, that's right. It's a vector of attack, and there's huge concentration risk in how much all of us use one cloud. In the cloud design world, there's a methodology called hybrid cloud, where you basically can either work between a public and a private cloud or multiple public clouds to sort of avoid this kind of redundancy where you can kind of fail over. Like if Amazon goes down, you can like fail over to Azure or fail over to Google Cloud. Yeah. And almost nobody thinks it's worth doing. Like all the work it takes.
It's a lot of intellectual cost and dollar cost to keep it all going.
Yes, but I think every time one of these things happens, I think the tech teams are like, maybe we should. This is it's pretty painful. Okay, moving to the next story. The Trump administration is going to release farm aid frozen by the shutdown. We continue to have more and more stories every week about how much farmers in America are struggling. Some of it is due to the geopolitical trade war things that are happening, especially with China. We talked about the soybean farmers, I think it was last week, and Trump administration's making a move here to provide some aid to those farmers.
Yeah, I mean, the estimate is that farmers are going to lose $100 an acre if they're farming soybeans, which is a lot of money. I think so. The Trump administration had to bail out the farmers in the first Trump administration during the trade war with China. So I don't think anyone's surprised that they're going to bail them out again.
Nope. No, agree. Stocks retreat as trade fears resurface. The Nasdaq falls nearly 1% with earnings season picking up. This is the Wall Street Journal. What's your take here? I mean, it seems like people are really feeling, this U.S.-China trade war is pretty durable and could be long-standing and just could be difficult to navigate, right? It's hard to plan when you don't know when the next Truth Social post is going to pop up, right, saying we're going to have 100% tariffs going out. So.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, it's one thing to have tariffs, but we're getting now to a point where it's a trade war with China, and then what I meant, this rising tensions with Russia, where it's going to be, I think, really more than just a tariff. It would really kind of be difficult to navigate.
Yep, agree. The U.S. imposes substantial new sanctions on Russian oil giants. So Russia sort of now falling into the crosshairs of the State Department and President Trump's focus on balancing the geopolitical issues that we face in America, tackling two of the biggest oil companies based on the war on Ukraine. And I mean, I think President Trump's had, pretty solid success in the Middle East, but Ukraine has been a difficult ship for him to sort of right, on both sides. I mean, he's tried to sort of have, I think, pretty heavy-handed conversations with Ukrainian leader Zelensky, and maybe less heavy-handed, but also tried to be firm with Putin. And there's not much changing in that conflict. It continues to escalate. Ukraine is continuing to recede in terms of the land that they are protecting. And while in the beginning it felt like Russia was, losing a lot of face, losing a lot of military, it's now become, I think, pretty apparent that Russia does have the upper hand in this war of attrition. And so, I mean, what's your take on President Trump taking to an economic angle now?
Yeah, I think we need to do it. I mean, Russia's losing a lot of men every week. I think they're losing more men than the Ukraine side, but they have a lot more men in their army. And right. I think Putin is, willing to go maybe as deep as he needs to go. So putting economic pressure, I think we have to try to do everything we can do.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. For every action, there's an opposite reaction. And, what I think will be interesting to see is how does China respond? Does anything come about from BRICS as a result of this? It seems like Trump has been able to get Modi to align with him on this particular topic, but, Russia's got other allies. And so it'll be interesting to see, I'm just thinking back to when Biden leveraged the SWIFT network to sort of cut off significant Russian assets. And ultimately, I mean, it did little to stop Putin's, dedication to this effort. So we'll see.
Yeah. But the other thing that they're considering is allowing Ukraine to have Tomahawk missiles or cruise missiles or other missiles. And I think that is more worrisome.
That's worrisome.
Because we could get pulled into it in that case.
Yeah. Well, I think Putin would say economic sanctions are one thing, and it's kind of your right at the end of the day. I mean, if you don't like what I'm doing and you want to change the way we do business, then okay, that's fine. But I think that supplying Ukraine with serious weaponry, that's where it moves into the U.S. is leveraging Ukraine as part of a proxy war against Russia. So I agree. That is worrisome if we end up going to that step. All right, moving to the VC rundown. Ampa raises $8.5 million to begin U.S. neuromodulation system launch. So this is a system that's dedicated to people who have treatment-resistant depression.
Yeah, so it's a TMS system, transcranial magnetic stimulation. There's been other technologies, but I'm excited to see more options coming to people with, depression that is not really treatable with the typical medication. So great to see it come out. I don't know much about technology, but excited to see it.
Yeah, and I didn't know the VCs either, but I think we should sort of track Nexus Neurotech Ventures. So obviously dedicated to brain technology, and then Satori Capital, Morningside Ventures. I know this brings their total funding to 18 million. So relatively well funded for effectively like it's a digital therapeutic, but not in the typical sense of VR, AR, things like that. It's still in stealth. Well, it's emerged from stealth, but it's still I think pretty early in terms of it being rolled out from a clinical perspective.
Yeah. Well, I think there is a physical magnet you have to put on the person's head
on
or
your
near
head.
the
Yes.
yeah. But yeah, it's definitely a digital technology.
Yep. Hyro snags $45 million for its conversational AI agents. This is an agentic AI company. They've raised a total of $95 million. They're being used by Intermountain Healthcare, Bon Secours, Hackensack, Baptist, and Sutter Health.
Yeah, so it's a decent sized round. It's a crowded space, as we've talked about before here.
Yes.
But with the customer list that they listed there, it's a decent amount of really strong health systems that are good to have. So it's one to watch.
Yeah. No, listen, I agree. Big round led by Healthier Capital, really, really strong group of health systems around the table. So, we'll track them and kind of see how they do. I agree. It is very, very busy. Feels like there's going to have to be some consolidation. And I wonder if the valuations are going to stick when it's time to start doing some consolidation in the space. But, we'll see. Andel grabs $4.5 million to help employers close the GLP-1 coverage gap.
Well, it's an interesting business model. It's really like a group purchasing platform to help employers be able to deliver GLP-1 medications at a more reasonable price. So interesting. I don't know. It seems like a pretty niche space, but good.
Yeah, I mean, GLP-1, it's such a huge hot topic. I think you and I have talked about. We've got a company in Foundry that's playing in the GLP-1 space, right? Yeah. So, there's a lot of shots on goal in this space. VCs around the table on this one, Lightbank, Seedcamp, Bertelsmann. So, some well-known VCs. We'll just kind of track how they're doing. Next up, Knownwell secures $25 million to expand obesity medicine. So this was led by CVS Health Ventures. That's notable. Included participation from the Mass Mutual Catalyst Fund, Intermountain Ventures, A16Z Bio and Health, and Phare Capital Partners. So that's a really strong group of folks around the table on this deal. This is a primary care and metabolic health company. So they announced this at Health this week.
I mean, there are other groups that are doing weight loss as a focus telehealth effort. They come at it more from a primary care base, and then they're expanding into metabolic health and weight management. So it's pretty interesting.
Big story, which is not really VC. It's really a private equity story in terms of an acquisition, but a VC-backed company called Phare Health, that's spelled Phare Health, was acquired by R1. This news just came out today. This is R1 boosting their AI abilities. This is a pretty young company. They've not been around that long. It's pretty intense to sort of see that R1 has chosen their first acquisition in the AI space. This article that's in Modern Healthcare also talks about the fact that R1 has launched an AI lab in partnership with Palantir, and that, that was also done in partnership with Khosla Ventures. And so I think, generally speaking, we know that there's a lot going on in the revenue cycle management space. We know that R1 is a leader. They were recently taken over by Towerbrook and CD&R, but now we're starting to see them move on acquisitions, and doing it, alongside Palantir and Khosla is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know this startup. Pretty good situation for Khosla.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so moving into policy, Cigna and CVS joined TrumpRx in offering discounted infertility medications. Manufacturer EMD Serrano is engaged by the Trump administration to bring the price of the medicine down by 84%.
Yeah, so this is incredible. I mean, it is very expensive to do in vitro. That's one of the obstacles, honestly. And so having TrumpRx be able to bring the cost down is great. And good to see sort of a group of, there's several pharmaceutical companies now coming on to TrumpRx. I think it's going to be an actual thing.
Yep. And on that note, Mark Cuban at Health this week on the main stage said that Cost Plus Drugs is going to partner with TrumpRx as well. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I was surprised about that. I mean, they have similar motivations, but a very different style. Cost Plus Drugs is kind of, as the name says, they're very transparent about like what they pay for the drugs, and they put a 15% margin on it, so everyone knows what everything costs. I think it's probably good that they're joining together.
So I will say, to me, this feels very in line with Mark Cuban's positioning in two ways. One, he has very much positioned Cost Plus Drugs as a challenger company, right? Being less about the success of this one company and more about how improper the PBM industry is, right? And so I think it makes sense to me that he would align Cost Plus with really any entity that aligns with helping to lower the cost for employers and the general public, right? So I think on
or put pressure on the PBM model, which TrumpRx is doing.
Yes, exactly. So I would say there's alignment there, and this feels consistent with that positioning from him. The second thing I'll say is, I track Cuban both on X and on Blue Sky. And one thing that I notice he is very, very consistent about is he does not want to be positioned as someone who has Trump derangement syndrome. Okay. And so he's very quick to credit or congratulate President Trump when he does something that is in line with the principles that Mark has. So as opposed to kind of consistently criticizing him, he seems to try to sort of balance his criticism with congratulations and praise based on each activity, right? And I think this is just more of him demonstrating that he's really, at the end of the day, independent and pro-America, right? And so I think this is consistent from Mark Cuban, and I got to say, in a time when the country is so divided, it's kind of cool to have a billionaire and an entrepreneur with the kind of influence as Mark Cuban, really kind of consistently sticking to the principles and not getting pulled in to the political melee. It's really cool to see him hold his own individual ground, right? And not feel that he has to sort of, I don't know, just kowtow to one side or the other.
I saw him on a TV show, Bill Maher's show, with Aaron Ross Sorkin and Mark Cuban, talking about Trump, and they both made the point that to congratulate him on the Mideast peace deal, because it happened. But then they went on to sort of, so this part was really good, but these other thing, then they had a bunch of criticism too. But they definitely both, even Aaron Ross Sorkin, definitely we have to recognize that this peace deal, now maybe it's not going to hold, but it's holding sort of so far. That gives you more credibility, I think, when you criticize, where it's not just like a blanket, everything he does is bad.
I think that's the point, is he does not want to get lumped in with TDS, right? And I'm not even saying TDS is a real thing, but it's a real point of debate that people use to try to, minimize another person's argument, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the average cost of a family health insurance plan is now $27,000. Higher spending on chronic diseases, weight loss drugs, and hospital bills help drive the increase. This is covered by the Wall Street Journal. And before they even give you the first sentence of the article, they slap a chart right there. And if you happen to be watching this right now on YouTube, you can see it is up and to the right in a pretty nasty way. The worker contribution is going up a little bit, but the employer piece, it has doubled. It has doubled since from 2010 to 2025. That contribution has gone from $10,000 to $20,000.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's more than $20,000, so it's almost 27. So it's gone up a lot.
No. The employer contribution.
Oh, the employer piece. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yes, the employer contribution has doubled from 10 to 20K.
Yes, that's right. So the employers are mostly absorbing the extra cost.
Yes.
But I do not think that is going to last. I think it is. So if you go down a little bit, there's a deductible chart that's pretty interesting. Keep going. It's maybe the last chart. It's down a little ways. Big companies are still holding on with an easy deductible, but smaller companies have already increased it.
Yeah. Well, you just can't eat it in your P&L.
Yeah. You can't afford it.
You can't. You have to keep sort of pushing it off. So this trend. And this is going to continue. We're obviously not talking about employer plans when we talk about the ACA markets, but we're a week away from those new rates rolling out, and it's going to be terrible. It's going to be terrible.
Yeah,
right?
And it's not clear that anyone in DC is going to work it on. Trump is going to Asia, I think tomorrow, and the Senate left yesterday on recess. Maybe they could come back, but I don't know. It seems like our elected officials are not really doing their job. Now, maybe Trump's going to a summit in Asia, so I shouldn't say he's not doing his job. He's not working on this.
Well, they're not coming to the table. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Right? they do not have enough alignment to come to the table. I think that's the point. They would argue they are doing their job for their party and their constituents by holding the line and on both sides. But in the meantime, we're all going to be stuck with much, much higher insurance bills.
Right.
All right. Hospital lobby again petitions the FTC to exclude doctors, hospital execs from non-compete enforcement. That hospital lobby is, of course, the AHA. How is this going so far, Vic?
I think it's going pretty poorly. I mean, in September, so a few weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, the head of the FTC, Andrew Ferguson, sent letters to a bunch of health systems urging them to voluntarily modify their contracts to get rid of non-competes.
Okay.
I think that's the step you do before you start enforcement. I don't think that AHA is going to have much success.
Well, I mean, I think it's been a pretty tough year for AHA lobbying efforts this year. I think that's just objectively true. This is their job, right? This is their job. So it's not like they sort of woke up today and decided that they were going to petition. This is what their members pay them for, right? Focus on their interests in DC. I think the Trump administration is not that excited about giving them audience, and I think that's your point here.
Yeah, and they list 5 or 6 reasons which are correct, right? I mean, so for instance, it protects the investments hospitals make when they're recruiting and training physicians. So okay, but the FTC is saying that the public is overwhelmingly in favor of this, which I think is probably right. So both sides are right, but I think that they're going to have to try to navigate it.
Yeah, and again, court of public opinion, I think people care more about their doctors than they do about the brand of the hospital the doctor works at. And so, I think it's just another one of those situations where the healthcare industry broadly has lost leverage in the court of public opinion, which then has resulted in them losing leverage in DC, right? Because there's not a lot of political jeopardy to denying their requests.
Right.
Minnesota Attorney General investigating Aspirus Health over claims of unlawful non-compete. So very related story. This is Keith Ellison. Keith Ellison has an AG pretty regularly in the shorts of health systems when it comes to mergers and other matters. And so it's not unusual for me to see him sort of taking this action. But I think it shows sort of exactly the kind of thing that the AHA is trying to get more leverage for health systems on.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this is sort of maybe a sign of what's to come. Across. There's only 4 individual states that outlaw non-competes today at the state level. Minnesota is one of the 4. It's going to be happening much more often next year when FTC federally starts working on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, both politicians and think tank leaders have just sort of stuck with the focus that they are against any behavior that health systems would employ that even smells anti-competitive, right? Like it doesn't matter if you're doing it to your labor force or if you're doing it to your community through M&A, it's going to be heavily scrutinized, right? And even more so if you happen to have private equity money, right? So it's just the playbook for health systems is just getting more and more constricted. And if you're not one of these, like if you're not, Ascension, HCA, Advocate, if you're not sort of at that level of scale, then I just think it gets really difficult, to sort of navigate the fundamental challenges that you're going to be facing already based on demographics and the economy. But then on top of that, everything that's coming down the pipe with HR1. So I still think we are in for many, many, many hospital closings over the course of the next 5 years. To me, at this point, there's just too many things pushing the industry in that direction, which is going to result in less jobs, less coverage, and a bunch of other things. It's like, maybe it will be good to have this happen to get to the next version of the healthcare industry. But as you and I know, the regulatory environment means that nothing in healthcare moves that fast. And so while we are making it more and more difficult for health systems to operate, there's not like a good solution emerging, to pick up the slack.
Yeah, that's right. There's going to be patients that fall through the cracks or can't get the care that they would have gotten 5 years ago.
Health was this week. Both you and I were not there. And, I got to say, like, I think about my friends in healthcare, and fewer of them were there this year than last year. I'll just say that. And I think it's just a combination of the intense difficulty that we are finding in the healthcare environment right now. We currently have a government shutdown that's not helping anything, and just kind of conference fatigue. It's like you go to these things and they're mostly press release events and opportunities to go out and do some networking, see if you can, grease some deals through the pipeline. But it's a lot when you really kind of are like, do I have the budget to do the travel? Do I have the budget to pay for the badge? So just acknowledging that there's a lot of pressure out there that I think is going to also find its way to the conference world.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's a lot of solutions there, but it's almost overwhelming, the number of solutions and innovations and startups and things. Yeah.
Exactly. So on that note, Optum unveiled their new AI-powered claims processing platform. And, this was a strange one for me, because if I had to think of like, okay, what is the one organization in America that is probably leading the pack in terms of AI when it comes to claims processing, I would have already said Optum, right? So apparently, like, there's some next level that they've achieved with this new platform. But what did you read about this story?
It's real time. It's meant to be like immediate response, giving you the answer about reimbursement and getting you your money more quickly.
Okay.
I mean, so they talked about, like, I think there's not just at Optum, but there's $1 trillion in administrative costs. About 20% of the healthcare system is in all the administrative back and forth, submitting a claim. Maybe it gets disputed, there's fights over it, then they pay it. And so Optum is putting forth a solution that would cut all that out and just pay you immediately. That sounds great, as long as it is paying at a rate that everyone agrees on. I think there's reasons that they fight over it. But they do have a health system, Molina Health, as part of this kind of announcement and rollout. So, and Molina is having a lot of success with it. So if it can solve the administrative burden and provide fair payment, whatever fair means, I think that could be great. That's what every health system and physician wants. I don't think they want extra payment. They just want to get paid for what they do. But
right.
Getting to the truth has been a challenge. I mean, the entire revenue cycle management business is for that.
So I think one thing that helps Optum on this story, you and I both know this, because a fair amount of the Optum team that focuses on sort of the consulting side of the business, especially when it comes to with providers, is actually based in Nashville. But they're not well known for that, right? I mean, I think the brand is known for their Optum Care side of the house, as well as for the stories around kind of having a closed loop between Optum and United Healthcare, right? But they have a very, very robust services and consulting and technology business that they offer to health systems. And I think, more importantly than talking about, Optum rolling this platform out to United Healthcare, is the Molina Health story, right? Like, showing that they are actually working with health systems to help them to get their money faster and to improve the patient experience. And so it's probably why, especially given sort of the year that they have pulled themselves out of, I would say, it feels like the drumbeat of negative United stories has dropped off in the last 2 months, which is good. It feels like part of the story they want to tell is that Optum is a solutions provider, right, and not just kind of the in-house data arm for the insurance company.
Yeah, they definitely want to put that out there. I think it would be healthy for it to become that. I think it's on the way.
Yeah, I think they already are that. I just don't think the narrative is there, right? I mean, I think if you look at the scale of that business between advisory group and some of the other stuff they have, Optum inside, it's pretty significant. It's just not as strong on the narrative side, is what I would say. Okay, Healthcare Dive. Molina slashes 2025 profit guidance again on ACA woes. This is our first story on the payer side, and this ACA stuff is going to be a real problem for the managed care companies.
Yeah, so Molina is they really focus on government pay, and their MLR was 92.6 overall, But then in the ACA book of business, 95.6. I don't even know how to think about it. Over 95% MLR. That means very little money is available for Molina to do anything else. So it's difficult times in the payer world.
Right on. Next story is Elevance. They outperformed in the third quarter, but they warned of Medicaid challenges. The thing that jumped out to me in this story was the MLR, which has jumped year over year. Let me just find it in the story here. But I think it was over 90%. So last year it was 89.5%. This year it was 91.3%. So it's better than the analyst forecast. But I mean, we're really just kind of blowing the MLR out the window now. I mean, are we going to have to just totally relook at, similar to what we talk about when we are talking about the baseline for inflation and how 2% is just not realistic anymore? I mean, are we going to have to just relook at what's reasonable again for MLR?
I think it's difficult. Above 90, I don't know how you can run the operations. I mean, I think about it like a gross margin, basically. So the gross margin is under 10%. Now, Elevance has Carelon, just similar to Optum. And so it contributed $800 million in income. Yep. Molina doesn't have that. So that, I think Elevance is better than Molina, better positioned, but they're still really difficult on all fronts, managed care. It's not that health systems are that much better. I mean, everywhere in healthcare is challenging.
No, the whole thing is hard right now. The whole thing is hard. Moving on to health systems, only one story this week, which is a merger. Samaritan Health Services to join Multicare Health System. This is a new deal that will create an 18 hospital system in the Northwest. About $7.5 billion in revenues. So while the hospital count is not that high, $7.5 billion in revenues, I think makes it legitimate. That's kind of in the same scale as the Hatco acquired Suma Health. So, could be a real target for innovation, but very regional, focused in Oregon and in Washington.
Yeah, that's right. It's in the Northwest. So I don't know the brands that well, but two fairly small systems getting together, which I think is positive. I mean, we need consolidation for all the reasons we've been talking about on the health system side.
Yeah, and this one is across state, even though it's in the same region. It is, sort of Oregon and Washington, blending together here. Okay, moving on to pharma. Novo Nordisk to shake up board after Obesity-Market challenges. Last week we were talking about a pretty big acquisition they were doing, but we know that they're still flailing around from, just kind of Lilly eating their lunch for quite a while. And now there's also sort of broader things coming out of Washington talking about really driving the cost of GLP-1 drugs down. I think it impacted the entire space. But basically there was a controlling shareholder, and they had a fight with the board chairman, and the board chairman and many of the directors are now out.
Yeah. So we're used to seeing like someone who tries to cause change in the corporate environment from the outside. This was the Novo Nordisk Foundation, and they were looking for more management change, more shakeup in the strategy than the board was willing to do. So they replaced the chairman and replaced 6 other members, so that now they have a majority of the board and can put in the plan they want. So pretty big change.
I mean, look, it's their right, and certainly, management and the board, a tough 12 months. So, makes sense. All right, Grail says new data on multi-cancer screening tests show improved performance. This is from STAT. Findings strengthen the biotech's push for FDA approval of the Galleri blood test.
Yeah, so this was pretty exciting. That they tested 36,000 adults. So it's like it's a screening test for early discovery of cancer. And these were volunteers. And they were able to they caught cancer in a decent number of patients. So it was really impactful. You could get stage 1 cancer, before there are any symptoms or anything, which obviously is much easier to treat. Yeah. We're going to continue to talk about the false positives. So they had about 62% were real positives, where they found the warning of cancer and the patient had cancer. Mm-hmm. And then 38%, they did a bunch more testing to find that the patient did not have cancer, was a false positive. So I think it's really valuable, and also valuable to sort of just watch the false positives too.
Yeah, and the false positives are dropping. In the previous studies, it was more like 43%, were false positives. So it's good to see that continue to drop. All of the negative results did not have cancer. So that negative predictive value is 99.1%. And so, look, is it perfect? No. Is it going to create false positives that will create issues for people as they worry and sort of take the next step? Yes, it's not perfect, but the continued improvement and sort of finding more about what is driving those false positives will continue to drive the false positives down, right? Credit to the heroes that are signing up and being part of these studies and getting the false positives and having to deal with that worry when in fact they don't have cancer. But, every one of those hopefully is giving Grail really valuable insights they need to improve and continue to lower that false positive, percentage to something I think much more palatable. I think right now it's certainly true that 36% does seem pretty high, but at the same time, I want to see more and more of these diagnostics at a low cost get pushed out. And so I'm hoping we continue to do these studies.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to keep getting better, which is great.
Yeah. New York Times, vision restored using prosthetic retinal implants. This is another Health and Eye story. The device could help 1 million people with a severe form of macular degeneration to be able to see enough to read. More and more sort of neuro implants that are, just boggling the mind and showing us maybe we're just, fleshy computers.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. There are glasses with cameras on them, and then an implant. They show a picture of it. It's compared to a penny, so you can get a frame of reference, but it is very small. It gets implanted into your retina. If you have macular degeneration, I think that's the disease that they can now treat. And so you can have a field of vision. It's not as wide as normal human eye. It's a limited field, but you can read a book, read the newspaper, read things, which is incredible.
Yeah. So again, this is science. There were side effects. Some people had pressure in the eye, tears in the retina, and bleeding. I mean, these are scientific advancements. It's every person who steps up takes on risk. Puts themselves in the line of fire. Hopefully for improvements to their own condition, but ultimately for the advancement of science. So right. It's just such an interesting time. I mean, we had so many sci-fi books and stories and movies about all these implants, and Vic, we're living in the time now where I feel like every other week, one of the stories that we go over in the Health and Eye section is about some form of implant, in the head somewhere,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fun time. I mean, it's a crazy time politically, but also a fun time in science.
Fun time in science. Okay, a mother and son share an autism diagnosis. Their worlds couldn't be more different. Parents and doctors question whether one label can encompass a condition with a range of needs. So, I'll just tell you, as someone who knows actually quite close to multiple young people who are on the spectrum, I feel like if you know people on the spectrum, then you know that it is a spectrum.
Yeah.
And how their condition presents is, while there are groupings and while there are very similar symptoms, it's also very individual. It's very individual because you're talking about something that is intertwined with personality, right? It's not something that happens at the layer of fitness and how you move your limbs or something. I mean, it's how you present in the world and how you engage with other human beings. And so it's not just the condition or even sort of what your particular condition is on a spectrum. It's also who you are as an individual, right? And how you have, evolved alongside this condition that you have. I don't know. To me, the headline was not that surprising, but I do think there are a lot of people who don't know people with autism, and this kind of education is helpful.
Yeah, I think it's helpful. It also, I think there's a beginning of it's probably a small group right now, but there's a quote in there from a chief of clinical enterprise for Boston Children's, basically saying that using the same term autism for people, some people that are very functional and and if you met them, you wouldn't necessarily even know right away.
Right.
All the way to nonverbal, very difficult cases. We
Yes.
call them all autism on the spectrum.
Yes.
And he's saying, this Boston Children's leader, that we need to create new categories, new terms, because calling it one thing just is a disservice to all. I don't know. I think there's pros and cons to it, but it's starting to be a conversation, I think, with all the attention on autism, brought by the Trump administration.
Yeah, I think it's right because we had, well, not just the Trump administration, but I think just the prevalence of the condition. I mean, I feel like maybe 20 years ago, not everybody knew somebody with autism, and I think it's getting kind of hard to not know somebody with autism. The prevalence is just so high at this point. So yes, I agree.
It was first created in the DSM in 1980. We didn't have a diagnosis until 1980. This was in the article. I didn't know that.
Okay.
And so it's relatively new compared to other medical diseases. So I think it's worth looking into. I don't know what the right answer is, but there is a wide difference depending on where you are in the spectrum.
Agree. All right, 2 crypto stories this week. One, a big one. Coinbase strikes a deal for crypto investing platform Echo. The acquisition marks Coinbase's 8th deal this year. I got to say, this is pretty good reporting by the Wall Street Journal. I'm glad that the subtitle to this article is focusing on the fact that Coinbase has been very, very active in M&A activity this year. Coinbase is going for it, Vic. They're going for it. I actually think right now there's probably no better bellwether for the direction of crypto in America than Coinbase. I think Coin is really Coin is the ticker. You know what I mean? For those of us who are actually at least crypto literate, when you look at where they were a year ago, it was just all out sort of fighting for political engagement, to where they are today, post-election, everything from, being a partner with Circle that's now IPO'd to fighting with maybe different bank lobbies around their right to offer rewards for staking USDC, to the growth of the Base ecosystem and now launching the Base app as a new client on top of the Farcaster social network. And now this Echo deal, which is really about raising capital for ventures, on crypto markets, right? And Echo is the leading platform in the space. Look, they're out in front of the market structure legislation, right? And I think they're a bellwether that there's probably a better than 60%. I don't know what Polymarket says about it, but it feels like there's a better than 60% chance that it's going to happen, right?
Yeah, whether it happens this year or next year, I think is the only question. I think it's going to happen before the midterm elections. And Coinbase is the leader. They're most Americans, when they approach I got to figure out crypto, Coinbase is that and Robinhood are the two places that Americans go, I think, really, when they're just trying to figure it out. And you're right, a year ago, it's very different. It says in the article that they have, the shares are up 40% year to date. And so, you're right. They've made a lot of progress, and the market has recognized it.
Yeah. And then, kind of talking about the other big platform in the world, right? If Coinbase is the bellwether for the West, Binance is the bellwether for the East. And what's so interesting about that is that CZ, Changpeng Zhao, was arrested and spent time in jail on U.S. jurisdiction for, KYC and other sort of issues, which is why Binance for a very, very long time has not been available in America. And I think Trump, in his continued sort of salvos to the overall crypto industry, has issued a pardon to CZ. So this is a big deal, right? He pardoned Ross Ulbricht from Silk Road. That felt very symbolic. But this CZ one, this is interesting, right? Because this is a Chinese national running a company that's still not really available in the United States. And so you sort of ask yourself, why did he do this? And I think that there's a lot of interesting theories around it. I think one of the big ones is trying to send a signal to the entire crypto world, not just the crypto world in the West, but the entire crypto world, that America is going to be open for business with crypto.
Yeah, which we want. Which is positive. the crypto markets are growing, and the U.S. can lead that or not lead that. I mean, I don't think CZ's bank, crypto platform did anything that other U.S. banks, just take J.P. Morgan, but any bank doesn't do already. I mean, it is difficult to stop, people laundering money through any platform because they're criminals. They are looking for ways to get around stuff. And I think it was unfair that he got convicted of the KYC stuff, not because the facts weren't right, but because every bank in America has similar things where there's money flowing through it that people don't go to jail. I mean, they might get a fine, but
right.
The Biden administration was just ridiculously over the top for, we've already talked about it, stupid political reasons that don't make sense. So
yeah, and listen, I am not. I haven't fact checked this, but I think I was listening to the Bankless roll up. I think David and Ryan were saying that that the Democrats are going after the market structure stuff.
What do you mean? Like they are supporting it, or they're not supporting it?
No, they're not supporting it.
They need to do some reading.
They have learned nothing.
Right.
Like if that's true, I don't know that it's true. Although I do trust the Bankless guys. If that's true, they've learned nothing. I mean, just stop fighting crypto. You're not going to stop it. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah.
Yeah, yes, they're fighting something that no one really wants them to fight. And they're not going to win votes for that from any side of the country.
No, I don't know how it's popular at all. Like you want to stop people from being able to raise money.
Right.
This is just, because here's the thing, Vic, of course, whenever the legislation comes out, it's going to have KYC in it. We're not going to abandon KYC. So I guess that's my thing. It's why are you trying to force everybody to use the old rails? I just don't understand. We're the AI rundown now. Google's DeepMind has a new AI that helps find potential breakthrough in cancer. The AI model predicted that combining glimetazartib with low-dose interferon could boost immune response, turning cold tumors hot.
Yeah, so we need to define a couple things. So a cold tumor is one that's not recognized by the body as foreign. Our own immune system doesn't yet notice it as being something to fight against. Doctors refer to that as a cold tumor. I didn't know that before this article, but obviously it's very difficult to fight those tumors because our antibodies are not targeting it. And so Google has a large language model that C2S scale 27B, it's a $27 million parameter model that is it's a biotech model. It's not predicting, human English language. It's predicting DNA and RNA. And they worked with the Yale Medical School to explore how could we sort of shine a light on these cold cancer cells and get the body to recognize it when then maybe our own antibodies would attack it. And together they found a possible combination of two molecules, and then Yale tested it. So incredibly, it works, which is really good to see. One, that this science fiction stuff is really kind of producing things of value, and now they're integrating back into the academic community to go test things. So it's great.
Look, Google continues to make real contributions. It's super cool. And here's another one. Verily, which is part of the Alphabet stack, rolls out a consumer app for free health guidance and an AI agent. I'm gonna download this because I gotta try it out and see. Have you downloaded it yet?
No, but I'm the same. I think we have to test it out.
Yeah. So to read a little bit from the article here, Verily launched a free consumer health app to connect patients with personalized care recommendations based on their health data. Within the app called Verily Me, patients can be connected to licensed clinicians who review relevant medical records across multiple providers and health systems. That is huge. Users can then use those health recommendations to inform conversations with their providers. The app is intended to identify care gaps and provide tailored health recommendations, Verily executives said. It's at no cost, and the goal is for it to be adopted broadly by the general public as a tool to have access to and engage in better preventative health management.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, no one except Google or Verily, which is a Google spinoff, would be able to do this or would consider doing it. But just giving something to the world totally for free is great. I mean, we'll see over the next week or two. You and I can test it, but it's going to be worth the cost, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it'll get better and better over time. I mean, Google's going to roll out their 3.0 model. They're saying before Thanksgiving, and so it's already sort of leaking out a little bit, and it's just going to keep getting stronger. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's awesome. And here's what I think is really, really interesting about this particular opportunity, right? So when you think about Google and all the many things they have, one of the things they have is Android, right? And so if you've been tracking mobile health for a while, you know that on Apple's got, the whole health kit thing, and then Google's got their Google Health platform. And so on both phone iOSs, whether Android or iOS, you can have this health app that can pull in all of your, in fact, it can't even pull in all of it can pull in many of your health records across different systems. It's really good at pulling in labs from different places, but for the most part, you have to be a pretty big health system to be registered on those systems for you to be able to pull in your health records, right? But like you pull it in, and then I can't speak to the Google experience, but on the Apple experience, you pull it in, and then it just gives you like a dashboard that's just viewing the information the same way if you were to be looking at a printout. Right. So there's no additional insight or intelligence. And one thing we know is Apple is not good at AI. Right. And so to me, this is really probably one of the first big consumer health sort of milestones that I've seen Google do that makes me feel like, they could kind of pull ahead here because Google is so good at AI. Right? That this could make Google smartphones just the superior device for people who really care about controlling more of their own health. People who are into medicine 3.0, biohacking, and things of that nature. It will be interesting to see this.
Well, I got the Google 10.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see this roll out and continue to advance. Look, I'm an Apple user, but I keep two phones because I'm always trying to keep up with what's going on Android. I just don't. I feel like at this point, it's a preference thing. I don't believe there's significant advantages to either. It's a preference thing. But this is the kind of thing that could really make me pull out my Android phone more often. Okay, OpenAI's AI-powered browser, ChatGPT Atlas, is here. ChatGPT is the beating heart of Atlas, according to employees on the live stream. So this is from The Verge. We're definitely in the window, Vic, of a wave of AI-powered browsers rolling out. This is going to be a threat to Chrome. There's also, I think, a lot of concerns. I've been looking on X, not just at this, but people talking about Comet from Perplexity, which was only available to pro users for a while, so you had to pay $200 a month. I wasn't going to pay that. But what they're talking about is some of the security issues that come with these AI-powered browsers, and that they haven't really sandboxed the agentic activities well enough. And so there can be prompt injections as the AI is like reading all the code on a website. Like there can be an Easter egg of nefarious code on a web page that instructs the AI to do something negative to your computer, right? I just think this is part of the whole, we're moving so fast because we are in this arms race, and the general public is so oblivious to the risks to themselves. And this AI-powered browser, I think, is going to be one of those incredible trade-offs where people are just like, oh my God, I'm going to gain so much time back by doing this. But they could also potentially be exposing themselves pretty significantly to some security issues. And I think maybe the first place we'll find that is where a bunch of corporations say you are not allowed to use these AI-powered browsers.
Yeah. So, I mean, two things. I'm trying to get more open to being, kind of willing to consider OpenAI as the dominant thing it is. But it's just hard for me to get excited about it. I mean, they do a demo and they showed a variety of agentic-like things. You can buy food or book a restaurant. It's just not super exciting. They do talk about the prompt injection, and their answer is that you should watch it, like visibly watch it while it's doing the work, so nothing happens, which didn't seem very realistic to me. And then they built it on the Chromium open source stack. So
of course they did. Of course they did.
Using the Chrome base. I don't know. It's hard for me to get too excited about it, but a lot of people are going to use it.
I think I'm a Brave user, which is also based on Chromium, but is much more focused on privacy from an ad blocking perspective, and also crypto. It's got like an embedded crypto wallet in it, and it's also got its own token and stuff like that. And Brave was on X basically saying like, we're working on the agentic stuff, but like we're not ready to roll it out because so again, to me, Vic, I think that we're in this era. Here's the best thing about this era, right? The last era, which was social, we kind of didn't have a choice, right? Like Zuckerberg ran away with it so badly that, we just were stuck with him, and you just had to decide, am I going to be on social media at all or not? Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, you didn't really have a choice of who you would align with ethically. And I think what's really nice about AI is that's not true. Right? Like, I can use Claude even if David Sachs doesn't like it, because I am more aligned with them ethically than I am with OpenAI, right? So, or maybe a better way of saying it is I'm more aligned with Dario than I am with Sam,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Claude released a bunch of new kind of tools, but also extensions. So it's getting much stronger. But this is a different story. So
well, it's a good segue. So Anthropic launches Claude for life sciences, embedding AI directly into lab workflows. So Claude continues to find ways to create value for people who are doing good things, right? Which is awesome.
Yeah. And they listed a bunch of partners. So this isn't just like a press release. They had maybe 8 or 10 big lab technology companies that are using it now, embedded in, which is great.
Yep. Okay, so here's a story. I think I sent it to you on X and you went and found the official story on TechCrunch, but OpenAI pauses the Sora video generations of Martin Luther King Jr. I think I sent you the X post where OpenAI, their newsroom, acknowledged that the family, the King family that is in control of the estate and all of the images and likenesses of Martin Luther King Jr. Basically,
if you go down just a little bit, it's in the story here too. Just go down.
Okay, yeah. Basically sent them a cease and desist, saying like, these depictions are disrespectful. And so OpenAI said, while there are strong free speech and interests in depicting historical figures, OpenAI believes public figures and their families should ultimately have control over how their likeness is used. And so, the thing about this is, for my own personal affinity for Martin Luther King Jr., I was happy to see this. And also, I agreed with many of the comments I saw on that X post, which were like, oh, so the family of MLK Jr. can opt out, but I can't. You know what I mean? And it's just the brazenness of these platforms to have a disregard for the impact that their technology can have on individuals' lives and just sort of say, whatever, it's actually worse than what Zuck did, right? Because with Facebook, like at the end of the day, you could still opt out, right? You could just say, I'm out, I'm not on the platform, and like whatever. And if I'm not on the platform, I'm not on the platform. Maybe someone puts up a fake version of me, but like whatever. And you could always like, reach out to Facebook and say, this is not me, and they would like take it down, So at least there was that. But like, what recourse do you and I have to get in touch with OpenAI and get them to do the same takedown that they did with MLK Jr.?
We don't have any. None.
Right? This is why I don't like them. This is why I don't like this company, Yeah.
It's great that they took this down, but you're right. There are hundreds of other historical figures, people that are still alive today, that are on the platform right now. People are making them do whatever they want them to do and laughing about it. And you should have the right to take your own image off.
Yes. It's ridiculous. Samsung's Galaxy XR headset debuts at half the price of Apple's Vision Pro. It actually took Samsung quite a while now to put their mixed reality headset out there. Half the price. Look, here's the thing. I think Samsung's high-end Galaxy devices are, generally speaking, not that much cheaper than the iPhone. Right.
Yeah, that's right. The phones are pretty much the same. Yeah.
The phones are pretty much the same. The Galaxy is a premium brand of phone. And so it's sort of, amongst Android users, Google has come out with the Pixel and that's become a challenger to it, but the Galaxy is really the blue chip Android phone and it's not cheap. So I think it says a lot that they've dropped the headset that is half the price of Apple's,
Yeah, that's right. And they're using Google's operating system in some way to sort of reduce the cost. And then they're coming out with smart glasses as well to compete with Meta. So there's going to be more and more of these devices of all different shapes and sizes.
Yeah, and to me, it just feels like an R&D pathway to wherever we ultimately land, right? It does feel like the regular bifocal form factor that we're seeing with Ray-Ban is going to be viable. That feels like it's got a real shot at being viable over time. But there may be incredible use cases for these mixed reality glasses, especially in training environments, right? And you got to think, okay, if I'm a corporation and I'm looking to train a whole bunch of people, do I want to pay $3,500 or do I want to pay $1,800 for a headset, right? So there could be some pretty great corporate business development opportunities here for Samsung. IBM sales jump as clients start scaling AI. The company's revenue rose 9% to $16.33 billion in the third quarter. This is the Wall Street Journal. We talked, was it last week, about IBM and Anthropic working together? I think it was last week.
Yeah.
I think so. So another story of IBM and the AI side. And look, as we said last week, IBM is a great bellwether for corporate adoption. And so if they are seeing their revenue growing, I think we can reliably say that means corporate adoption is happening of AI.
Yeah, that's right. If you're using IBM, you're not on the bleeding edge in like a skunk works thing. It's more in the main part of your company, and they're very reliable. I think IBM is one of the most reliable consulting practices. That they're agnostic to which tools you use, so they're a good choice in that sense. Yeah, I think we're going to see over the next year, I think we're going to start to see corporate America really rolling out, new AI sort of infused products.
Mm-hmm. GM aims to deliver eyes-off autonomous driving by 2028. The Cadillac Escalade IQ electric SUV will be the Detroit automaker's first vehicle to have the feature.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. Eyes off. Hands off is one thing, but eyes off where I can just take a nap when I'm driving to Atlanta. This sounds pretty good. So
yeah, and it's coming, right? I think this is one of those things where, are there going to be crashes? Are there going to be errors, et cetera, et cetera? Yes. But my God, can you not look out there in the street and see how many people are driving with their eyes on their phone?
Right. Yeah.
And one hand on the wheel because the other one is holding the phone. Like it's not even hands-free. This is coming, and the final story.
They're using the Waymo, the Google technology. So the Waymo's already driving around. With full autonomous vehicles. So I think it's gonna be good.
Yeah, and then the final story of the week from the Wall Street Journal. I test drove a flying car. Get ready, they're here. Dan Neal takes a test flight of the pivotal Blackfly, a series-produced electrical vertical takeoff and landing vehicle made for consumers. And they've got a video in here of him in this thing just sort of flying around.
Around the California coast. Yeah. The vertical takeoff and the ease of which to learn, I think it took him an hour, a little less than an hour to learn, is great. I want one.
I gotta say, it's pretty slick looking. It only seats one, right? It only seats one. So in that way, I think there's a lack of practicality to it, right? You have to be traveling by yourself. And so it's in the phase of it being an emerging luxury product for people who they don't have the time to take all the pilot lessons, but they want to be able to fly, right? What's sort of the distance it can cover, Vic?
I don't know the.
Did you see that in there? Okay, we're going to link in the show notes. So if you're interested in learning about that, you can read the article. They say that the price point, they're taking orders now for an upgraded version called the Helix with a sticker price of $190K. That's not a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's not a lot of money.
Yeah,
that's not a lot of money. So link will be in the show notes. Great way to end the show. And next week we will be back in person, I believe. Right?
Yeah. Excited to be back in the studio.
Yeah, back in the studio. I'm looking forward to it as well, man. Thanks for everything, and I will see you next week.